Alrighty, so we are starting the review. Or is there a specific problem that you work on that you're like, I had no idea what to do on that one? Five? Five? All it's asking for in 5 is the transformation. I know it doesn't ask what is a transformation, and the way it's asking it's kind of weird, but from here to here, what does a negative do? Reflection over x-axis, right? What does that plus 3 do? Left 3. And what does that plus 1 do? Up 1. So that's what it was asking. I know I didn't use the word transformation, but they want to know, what do you do from here to get this? Three? Okay. So did you get this? Something like that. Okay. So there's the answer. Of course, we're going to work it out. When we are talking about domains, we have to look at only your denominator. Now, your denominator could never be a 0 when you have a fraction, okay? So the first thing you need to know is what's going to make this a 0. And for right now, we forget about the square root. We're just looking at the 1 minus 3x equals to 0. Set your denominator equal to 0 to see what makes it a 0. We subtract 1. We subtract 1. Negative 3x equals negative 1. We divide by negative 3. We divide by negative 3. So I get x is a 1/3. So this is why I have a 1/3 there. Now, the thing, besides the 0, you cannot have a 0, is because it is surrounded by a square root, any number inside of a square root can never be negative. So what's going to make this a negative? So I have a 1/3 here. So my answer could be negative infinity to 1/3, 1/3 to a positive infinity. But the question is, which one is it? So you would take a number between here, which I would take a 0. And I would do the square root of 1 minus 3 times 0. And what is this? 1. And the square root of 1 is 1. So we're okay. You could do that. If I pick a number between 1/3 and infinity, I could pick a 1. If I do 1 minus 3 times 1, that is 1 minus 3, and that's the square root of a negative 2. Is this allowed? No. So this is why my only possible answer is this one here. Does that make sense? So remember, denominator cannot be 0, but also because it's inside of the square root, it cannot be a negative. Are we good?
Okay, I'll find out. I didn't know if you had it right.
No. All right, number 11. It's all good. And this is what I want for you to first check the work that you know you did. Verify that you got it right, because that's what you deserve for working on it. So synthetic division to find the remainder in the division. Synthetic, what number goes out here? Negative 3. What are the numbers that I'm going to put here?
2, negative 1, negative 15, plus 3,
3 and 0. Why are we putting a 0?
because there's no constant.
There's no constant. So don't forget about that. Or if there's an x cubed missing, then you would put a 0 right there. How are the steps for this?
Carry the 2 down
Mm-hmm.
and multiply with negative 3 times 2, and it's 6.
Mm-hmm.
And then you do the math.
You do the math. So what's the math?
Negative 7.
Negative 7. And then? Positive 21. Uh-huh. And then?
7, 6.
Mm-hmm. And then?
Negative 15.
Mm-hmm. Are you sure it's negative 15? That's negative
Sorry,
eight-
negative 18.
18 right there.
15.
Negative 15 here, and then this is a 45, and this becomes a. And the question here is just asking for the remainder. So that would be your answer.
So you should just say 45, or is there a certain way you have to write?
No, and remember it's multiple choice.
Okay.
So there'll be a 45 there. Number 7, of course. Now, in when we were doing inverses, and they were looking like this. So we had to do some work, and we had to get functions, and we had to do work and eliminate stuff, but at the very end, what would they equal? X. It would equal X. And then we would do it the other way around. And we're like, oh, because remember you would end up like with something.
You can't see it.
Of course you can't. Like something like this where you end up, oh, I can cancel the 3s and I can cancel the 5s and my answer is just X. Remember those problems?
Oh, yeah.
So that's when we would check, hey, are F and G inverses, right? Now here it says, given that they are inverses, so meaning that this is X and this is X, what is the sum, difference, and product of and the quotient? So they're just saying, they're telling you this is an inverse, so this is X plus X. What's X plus X?
2.
What's X minus X? What's X times X? And what is X divided by X? 1. We did the inverses, but they didn't ask in this way.
Right, okay.
But if you know, hey, if they're inverses, they should equal to X. 8. What formula am I supposed to use for 8?
The negative B minus.
Very good. So we could use quadratic formula, right? So A is 2, B is negative 2, and C is 6. So the formula is X equals negative B plus minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times A times C. All of this over 2 times 8. So what's a negative 2? Positive 2. And then we have a negative 2 squared, which is a positive 4. And then we have a 4 times 2 times 6, which is a
Negative
48 right there first. 4 minus 48 is a negative 44. Now, at this point, you should know, hey, there's a negative inside of the square root, so I have to have what in my answer? I. So you look at your answer choices. If they don't have an I, obviously, those are not your answer choices, right? Those are not your possible answers. So from here, the square root of 44 could break down into the square root of 4 times the square root of 11. Do you agree? So this becomes 2 plus minus 2i square root of 11 over 4. Because the square root of 4 became 2, the square root of 11 is the square root of 11. All of these are reducible by 2. So this becomes 1 plus minus I square root of 11 over 2. Or, and I don't remember the way it's in your final, they could split it up into 2 fractions. Now, how do you know if you have to take it that way? Look at your answer choices. If it doesn't look like this, then it's going to look like that. Okay? Question. Any other one that you did that you're not sure? 2? Did anybody work out 2 and you want to tell me your answer?
I did. I tried it.
What'd you get?
It's H.
Just H? Okay, anybody else?
I got 2x plus H.
I got H to the 7.
That's what it is. It is 2x plus H, but I'm going to work it out. But if you got that, awesome. Okay, now for this one, they're going to put you, they're going to give you the formula. Oh, now you say they work. No, I'm just kidding.
I got stuck on that one. I couldn't figure it out. He showed me. I was like, oh, okay, now I'm
Okay, so this is the formula for a difference quotient. It's going to be on your test, so you don't need to know this one, okay? Now, this means that for every x in here, I have to replace it with x plus h, right? So this is going to become x plus h squared minus 3 minus your f of x, which is x squared minus 3. All of this over h. Now, please keep in mind that this is h squared. That this is x plus h in parentheses squared. So I have to do FOIL. X times x, x squared. What's x times h? Thank you. X times h again is, and h times h. So this becomes x squared plus 2xh plus h squared. Are we okay with that? So let me rewrite that down here. H squared plus 2xh plus h squared. Now, please keep in mind, this is just this part. That's it. I still need to put the minus 3. This minus times those 2 becomes a negative x squared plus 3. All this over h. When you do this, stuff needs to eliminate. If it does not eliminate, then you've done something. So x squared, what happens there? Eliminates. Negative 3, positive 3, eliminates. So right now, what I have left over is 2xh plus h squared over h. But what did the top 2 have in common?
H.
So if I factor out an h, I have 2x plus h over h. And what happens to your h's? Cancel. So my final answer is 2x plus h. So if you did that, you got that, awesome, congratulations, so proud of you. If you didn't do it, go home and redo it and redo it and redo it until it makes sense. Because it's a negative times a negative. Remember this subtraction, so we need to not forget that after that subtraction, put parentheses because it's going to affect everything inside. Number 17. Number 17 is just a plug into the calculator. Okay, so then
It goes down, but it says approximate.
approximate means just you're rounding. That's all that means. So for number 17, on your calculator, which do your best to bring your own calculator because during finals time is like a big hassle. I have 3 in my office right now, but that's it. So if you have one, please try to bring it. If you have an extra one, bring it for someone to use it. But so to input this, if you have the ones with the latest versions, make the TI-83 doesn't work this way. But if you have these, you could do to math, go up. You see where it says log base? You go there. It gives you the little subscript. You put the 3. You put 2.12. So my answer, it says round approximate to 3 decimal places, is going to be 0.684. Now, if you don't have the one that gives you this, then how do you type it in? Log of 2.12 over log of 3. make sure you close the parentheses. So this is the way you type it in if you don't have this option. Log, parentheses, oh, I already opened up a parentheses, 2.12 divided by log of 3. And the answer is exactly the same. Right there. So there's 2 ways to do it. Yes. Next.
And then so the answer
Either.
is 604.
Mm-hmm.
So you still need the decimal.
Because it
4.
says round 3 decimal places, so you look at the
684.
number 6. Anybody want to help us in number 6? What am I supposed to do? Is it for? So what do we plug in? So the -3, you plug it into every x only in G. So 2 times -3 plus 2. -6 plus 2 equals -4. Now this -4 I plug into F. So whatever you get as an answer here, you plug into that one, which the answer was a -4. 3 times 4 squared minus 2. Oh, -4, sorry. So what is a -4 squared? 16. Minus 2, 48 minus 2 is a 46. Now, please understand you could use a calculator if you know, especially because of this test, if you know you're not great at multiplying positive and negative numbers, once you know, hey, the -3 goes for every x in G. 2 parentheses -3 plus 2. Bam, -4. Now, what do I do with that -4? Plug it into every x in the other one. 3 parentheses -4 squared minus 2. Bam, 46. I'm such a genius. Use it. Anybody else? Any other problem?
Yeah, number 19.
Number 19. I love that.
I couldn't even.
Okay, number 19 is just, it is really weird, but that's the way they put the question. So, here we go. You have, and you know, I'm looking for perimeter. The official formula for the perimeter of a rectangle is P equals 2L plus 2W. Yes? It says the perimeter of a rectangle is 48. 2L plus 2W equals 48. So that's 1. But then it tells you what happens if the width were triple. When you triple something, do you add, subtract, multiply, or divide? Multiply. So I am multiplying the width by 3. First of all, because what it says here, width were triple. It says the length is increased by 10. When you hear the word increase, does it mean add, subtract, multiply, or divide? Add. I am adding the length plus 10, but don't forget it still has that 2 in the front. This equals 104. Now, I have to do some work down here. I have to distribute the 2 to the L and the 10, so it becomes 2L plus 20 plus 6W equals to 104. Who's in the wrong place from here? The 20. So I have to subtract the 20. And I get 2L plus 6W equals 84. So I am going to take one equation and 2 equations. And look at those 2 equations that are my new equations. And notice that they are all divisible by 2. So this is going to become L plus W plus 24 L plus 3W equals 42. So if you could reduce, you do it. And it's going to be possible on your assignment. From here, after you set them up and we've reduced, it says, can you please write them as an augmented matrix? All that means is I want to see 1, 1, 24, 1, 3, 42. Now, you could solve it doing substitution, elimination, graphing, or Gaussian elimination. I would solve it right now because of the way it looks just by elimination. Elimination meaning I'm going to multiply the top one by a -1 because it becomes negative L minus W minus 24 L plus 3W equals 42. Your W's cancel. Your L's cancel. Your W's become 2W. And then this becomes what? 18. So we divide both sides by 2. And what do we get? 9. And now go and find L. Those are my answers. Half of this, half of that. So what did y'all get for L? Are you still working on it? Whatever makes you happy. I would do one of these because they're easier. Whichever
15.
one. There we go. Your L should be 15. Work on it until you get it 18. Please. See? Finished it. Go fix the ones you got wrong. Bye.
At least you know you halfway now. And it's multiple choice.
Yes. So your L should be 15. We have L plus 9 equals to 24. Subtract 9, L is 15. So your answer choice is going to give you this, and then on the side it's going to say W is 9, L is 15. So remember, it's multiple choice. I don't know which method you're going to use. It doesn't matter as long as you get the answer. I could do number 14. Yes, number 14. So I'm sorry I didn't give you enough room, but we have room. E3x plus 1 equals to 9. So what should I do here? Put the who? Ln. Put the ln in front of each one. When I do that, what happens with this? So I end up with 3x plus 1 equals ln of 9. And then what do we do? Before we divide, we have to subtract 1. Now, does this become ln of 8? Very good. It becomes ln 9 minus 1. Now we divide by 3. Now the problem here, if you get this wrong, because I know you guys know your steps. If you get this wrong, it's because you're going to input it wrong. So if I get this calculator here and I turn it on and I do ln 9 minus 1 divided by 3, just like that, of course it's going to be the wrong answer. ln 9 close parentheses minus 1 divided by 3, it's still the wrong answer. Because what am I missing? The whole top needs to be in parentheses. You need to make sure you close the parentheses after the 9. Parentheses, ln of 9, close parentheses, minus 1, close parentheses, divided by 3. My answer is 0.3991. So You know the steps, but what might get you is the way you plug it in. Does that help? What happened? Does that look better? Does it look like this when you type it in? I'm just kidding. Let me go think. Which one's your next one that you're gonna? What's your country? What's the next problem? So you start looking at it. Because you didn't put a parentheses in front of, like, start
Can we
off.
do 22?
No, she,
Parentheses in front of the element. Parentheses, element.
so you can see the difference between my name or parentheses at the very beginning. See it? Okay. So, which one? 22. Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah. I couldn't do that one.
22. Okay, it is very different. I don't think we covered much of this, but so you have $5,200. I wish, right? It says you invest part of it at a 7%, the rest at a 5%, but together both interest gains give you $316. They only want to know how much are you investing at a 7%. So, do we know how much we're investing at a 7%? No, that is an unknown. In algebra, when you don't know something, what do you use to replace?
Everything.
Represent it, an X. So, I am investing X money, I don't know how much, at a 7%. How do you write 7% to calculate? 0.07. Perfect. Now, if they say the rest, how do I represent the rest if part of X, if part is X?
Plus.
Why?
I can't use Y. It has to do something with this. You have $100, you spend some on buying cookies, so you have to subtract what?
The 5.
5,200 and who?
360.
Mm-mm.
And then
And X. Because remember, the part and the rest together, they make what? The 5,200. So earlier I was saying you have $100, you spend something on cookies, the rest is on drinks. You need to know how much you spend on here, subtract it from the 100 to know how much you spend on the other one, right? Sort of thing. So this is going to be 5,200 minus the part X, and this is being invested at a what percent? 0.65. Together, this part and the rest equals 316. On your test, it's going to be exactly the same thing, just different numbers for percents, different amount of money you have, but the process is the same. But my question is, does it make sense to you? I'm investing X at 7%. I need the rest, so I need to subtract it from the total, and this gets invested at the other percent. Together, this is why I'm adding them, it should equal to that. So we multiply, add, subtract, all that stuff, all that beautiful stuff. 0.07 times X is 0.07X. This 0.05 has to be multiplied times both of those. 0.05 times 5,200 is 260, and 0.05 times the negative X, 0.05 X. Together, that equals 316. Now, these two, they both have an X. What's 0.07 minus 0.05? 0.02 plus 260 equals to 316. What do I need to do?
Subtract 260.
Subtract 260. And I have 0.02x equals to 56. Divide by 0.02, and I find out that x is,
28.
so $2,800 are invested at 7%. And that's what they're asking for. Gotta use the little brains. Ready to get the what? Mm-hmm. What's next?
All the other ones, I'm just gonna get to, so just gonna look at it.
Okay,
I mean, I did 24 times.
23.
Yeah. 25.
23. What am I supposed to plug in here? For this? Plug in a what? -1. So you have to do this part first, and then this part. So what am I supposed to do with F and G? Subtract them is correct. So I have -6 minus 3x, that's F, minus, put parentheses, 5x plus 2. So this becomes -6 minus 3x plus 5x minus 2. Do we understand what just happened there? Because that's subtraction, right? Now, it says plug in a -1. -6 minus 3, -1 plus 5, -1 minus 2. Plug it into your baby here. -6 minus 3, parentheses, -1 plus 5, parentheses, -1 minus 2. The answer is a -10. So this is a -10. Perfect. I need to add that to the division of F and G. -6 minus 3x over 5x, -5x plus 2. But here for the division, they say to plug in what for every x? A 0. So this becomes -6 minus 3 times 0, -5, 0 plus 2. This just becomes a -6 over a +2 because what happens to this? It's just a 0. This is just a, this is a -3. So what am I supposed to do with this number and that number? It says to add them. So I have -10 plus a -3 equals a -13. I get cute. So beautiful. If you did 24, I'm going to give you the answer. If you didn't do it, I want you to try it. But the final answer should be 19, -33, 5, and -28. So if you didn't get that right now, I'll show you my work in a little bit, and we could figure that out. So did you multiply A times B? Oh, okay. Then, well, all you have to do is just multiply A and B. We've covered multiplication. Then you're going to get an answer, put a minus, and then the other one, multiply C times 2, multiply all them by 2, and then you just subtract. This minus this, that minus that. You can't do it when it's a different size. But here they're going to be, plus and minus have to be exactly the same size. All right, in your notes it says so. Number 25, did anybody do 25? What'd you get for your vertical asymptotes?
-4 and 4.
Very good. When you do your vertical asymptotes, you only care about your denominator. So we said x squared minus 16 equals to 0. We could factor it out or solve it. So it could be x plus 4, x minus 4, because you factor it out, equals to 0. So that means x plus 4 is equal to 0, x minus 4 is equal to 0, x is a negative 4, x is a positive 4. So these are my two answers. Or you could have gone this way. Hey, I could add 16. I get x squared is 16. Can I take the square root of it? Oh, sure I can. It's a plus or minus 4. Same answer, just different ways to work it out. So that's your vertical. How do you find the horizontal? What do I have to look at for the horizontal?
The top, the exponents.
Exponents. What's your exponent on top? Exponent at the bottom? So your numerator is less than your denominator. Your exponent in your numerator is less than the exponent in your denominator. This rule says that when this happens, your answer is going to be y equals to 0.
I put 9.
When your denominator is greater than the numerator, then that is none.
Oh,
When your, well, and I wrote it wrong. The numerator is greater than the denominator. When your numerator is equal to the denominator, then we have leading coefficient over leading coefficient.
he's tapping the picture. I'm glad she is.
Okay, anything else? Beautiful. The first one, number 20, plug it into your graph. That's how you're going to find the answer. Or, okay, there's two ways to do this, actually. When they tell you the initial amount, what do you think initial amount means?
You have B.
That's just the amount at the, just the amount right there.
At the beginning. But at the beginning, it's the amount at the beginning. So how much time has occurred?
None.
None. So you could either work it out by plugging in a 0 for x, or you put it into the y equals, and you go to your table and see what it is when x is 0. Two ways to do it. So if we go here, now, what's going to be the problem when you do this problem? If you don't put that parentheses, the answer is going to be wrong. 1860 divided by parentheses 1 plus 30 e, that's not e, e negative 0.333 times 0, close parentheses. My answer is well,
Just move, yeah.
Thank you.
you see, how am I supposed to know that unless you speak up? Thank you. So you just plug it in and just plug in a 0 for the x. You see how I entered it right there, times 0? Now, the other way is you input it in here, 1860, parentheses, negative 1 plus 30, e, negative 0.333 x. Go to your table, and you see when it's 0, the answer is 60. There's two ways to do it. You plug it into the y equals, just the way you see it, or you substitute the x, the t with the 0. So the answer is just 60. But if you don't know how to input it because you're there chit-chatting on the phone instead of doing your work, you know, Monday. Yeah. Sure, sounds good.
I'm not getting it yet. On the graphic page.
On the graphing,
Let's see, 0 you said?
on the graphing, you just type it in with the X.
I have to put negative 0.333 in mine.
Really?
Yeah.
That's weird. And then go to control graph. But it worked? Okay,
Yeah, after I put negative 0.333.
it worked.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Why mine don't go small like yours?
Your who?
Yeah, like yours.
Oh, like up to the top?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the other thing. If yours does not go up like that, you need to put parentheses here.
That's why I was.
Yeah. If that does not, if it doesn't do the exponent, like where it does it like that, you're gonna have to put a parentheses there. Yeah, you'll do the, like, it becomes, can I see yours? It's okay. Why would you do such a thing? So 1860 divided by 1 plus 30. The E opens up the caret, and it's already there, which is, so it opens up the negative 0.333 x. Make sure you, and I forgot it's 3. Make sure you close that parentheses and then close the other one. Because the first parentheses is for the exponent, and then the other one's for the whole.
And then what do you do with 2?
I put a X for T,
Oh.
and then you go second table. Right there. Okay. Okay, cool. Está en teléfono ya, no está poniendo cuidado. You want arroz con leche? Tomorrow that's gonna be cold. That's...
So we just finished 21 for this page.
Yeah, let's finish 21 for this page. What happened?
Put numbers.
Bro, times scholar?
Yeah. Once you reach it.
You're gonna go this way. What do you mean? I'll help you right now, Turtle. Okay, just hold your horses. For this one, it's f of g of x. So what does this here mean? I have to substitute every x in who with who. The other way. Every x in f with g of x. So the entire g of x goes into every x in f. So this needs to replace that little dude. So this becomes the square root. Instead of x, who am I going to put? 5x minus 2. But don't forget, there is still a plus 4. So it becomes 5x plus 2. And there's your answer. That's an easy one. Huh? You didn't get that? So, f of g of x means this. There's not a number. Remember, the other ones we've done have been with numbers. There's no number here. I need to plug in the entire function g for every x and f. So this is g, and it goes in there. So that's why it became this, but then that becomes that. Yeah.
I see what Tony did.
Yeah. So what do you want me to do? You want to wait for the grade? Because my student, I don't have class, right? Beautiful. Beautiful, 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 and beautiful. So you have missed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I think I know what it is wrong. Yeah.
Go back one.
Yeah.
Probably open them
Yes.
tonight.
Yes.
High five. Thank you. The horizontal? What about it? Okay. Shh. So you're looking at your degrees only? So the degree of the numerator was smaller than the degree of the denominator. Okay? Test. Okay. So what's next? Lisa, look at the two spring breakers in the back row.
Right.
Look at them. Turn around. Look at those.
Oh, God.
See what I mean? I wonder why I can't see it.
Just too bright, Miss Kenya.
Alrighty.
The J is 24. I just got a whole nother number.
For who?
24. Okay, oh, that's it. What?
This one?
Yeah.
Really?
I'm not
Okay.
even getting 19, I'm getting 20.
I'll show you my work.
Okay.
What was the answer for 13? Those of you who did it. 65. It's beautiful, yes. But the only thing is the following. It says to solve. So I really think that maybe in this question, and you got 65, and that is correct, but I have a little issue. That was a 2, 7, negative 14, negative 10, 20, and I know I'm just going about it, but you were supposed to do it. 60, and that's a 65. Because it says solve, it doesn't say what's the remainder, like the other one did. Remember, this is your remainder, constant x, x squared, x cubed. They may ask for the entire answer. X, 7x cubed, minus 10x squared, plus 12x, minus 30, with, they might give it to you as a fraction. They might just say R is 65. I'm not sure, but if they show you this, please remember it comes from the bottom.
And see, that's what I thought, because the guy at the tutoring lab was like, no, they just want 65, and I'm like.
Well, it's because I can't remember how the test is, like, to be honest. And they might just want 65. I can't remember, but I want to show you this just in case it's like that, so you won't be, that's not the way it was in the review, it's a remainder too. Not that you sound like that, right? But 24 is going to be the last one we do. 15, what's the answer? If you got that, great. Did y'all get that? Oh, so sad. Yes? Now, please remember, multiplication means addition, division means subtraction. And then you move your exponents to the front. Yes or no? Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Number Number 16. Weird question. When we are asked, hey, is this graph a function? What kind of line test do we do? We do a vertical, right? So when they give you a graph and it's a normal graph, how do you find if it's a function? Vertical line test. Here it says it is an inverse. Because it says it's an inverse, you have to do the horizontal line test. So all you have to do is grab your friend, go to where you graph it. Can you see it? Somewhat. Negative, parentheses, x minus 5. You graph it, and then you draw horizontal lines. Is this going to be a function? The answer is yes. So this is a yes. Then I go to the graph again, take away the negative. and put the square here, and then I graph that, and I get this, and I draw horizontal lines. Is this a function?
Yes.
No,
it's-
no.
it's-
No, because you do horizontal, so you're going this way.
it's also-
And it goes through it once and twice. And then you go and you change that 2 to a 3, and then you do horizontal lines, and that one's okay, so it's a yes. So the way this question is going to be, they're going to give you 3. They're going to call this one graph 1, 2, 3, and they're going to say which of the following has a function as the inverse. So they're going to say 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, all, none. And of course the answer is 1, 3, because only 1 and 3. See? What was the answer for 18? Anybody? Did you get 4, 2, -2, -4? Anything like that? What are we supposed to do then? Tell me, explain to me. You got some explaining to do.
Lucy.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even get this.
What does plus mean? Multiply. Who are you multiplying? Those two. So log base 4, if I'm multiplying, what's 2 times x? What is 2 times 2x times 2?
4.
Equals to 2. But I need to get rid of who?
The log.
The log base 4. How do you get rid of a log base 4? Nope.
You love this one.
4 to the power of all that cancels this. You know how e and ln cancel each other? That's the way we learn that cancel. So this becomes 2x squared plus 4x, 4 to the second power. And what is 4 to the second power? 16. And I'm gonna tell you something right now. I don't know if it's true, but just in case, as a backup. 2x squared plus 4x minus 16 is equal to 0. Because I need to move the 16 over, right? Now, I look at all this, and all this is divisible by 2. So I could factor out of 2. It becomes x squared plus 2x minus 8. And then I'm like, hey, can I factor that? What two numbers multiply to a -8 and add up to a +2? 4 and 2. Who's positive? Who's negative? +4 minus 2 set each one equal to 0. So I get x is a -4. X is a +2. So your answer 2, -4, 2, just -4. How about we do 4, -2? So which one's your answer? B is wrong. Why? Could this be my answer?
It can be that.
It cannot be negative. So remember, after you do this, you have to check. What's 2 times -4? It's a -8. Oh, I can't do a log of a -8. So this dude doesn't work. So the answer is just 2. So please be careful. The other thing that I was going to tell you is, remember, you have answer choices. Plug in your answer choices into the equation, meaning that if I have this, if I am clueless, you shouldn't be clueless, but if you are,
Faster this time.
now everybody watching this video is going to know my password. All right. So keep this in mind when you're doing this problem. You have your answer choices, right? I could just take this and say, but you need to know how to do the little base thing, because if not, you're out of luck right there. If I do this, the log base, this is a 4, and I do 2 times 2, because that's your x, plus, and that one is x plus, which is 2 plus 2. Now, when I do this, if my answer is 2, then So then that's your
How
answer.
you do your log base again?
Log base math, and then you go up. But remember, not every calculator, the TI-84, the 83 don't have it.
Oh, that's
You have to divide it.
So you would have to divide it, but you could still do it. It's just log 2 times 2 divided by log of 4, and then plus log 2 plus 2 divided by log of 4. It should still work out. Oh, I did something wrong. I put an extra parentheses here. So it's 2. So it's still, yeah, it still works. It's doable. I know it's hard to see. You 2 times 2, and then divided by log of 4. And then you do here's log of 2 plus 2 divided by 4. But you should be able to do this. You spend your life learning how to do by hand. No? Okay, whatever. Okay, can we move to the previous page? How many do we still have left? How do you find the axis of symmetry? X equals negative b over 2a. Very good. So, negative b is a negative 4 over 2 times a, which is 2. So I have a positive 4 over 4 is a 1. This is your axis of symmetry. The other thing it's asking for is your range. If you just graph it, you should be able to know who your range is. So I go to the y equals, and I have 2x squared minus 4x plus 2. I graph it, and this graph starts when y is what? What is y here? So it goes from 0 to infinity. Your range is 0 to infinity. Once again, just by looking at the graph.
When you said it was 4.
Sorry.
He told me.
Okay, so it goes, look at the graph from here to infinity.
What's it?
Monday, text me.
Oh, you just put that probably into it.
Yeah, I just graphed this for the range.
Okay.
Yeah, the question, I copied exactly, I just changed this for your review. So remember, axis of symmetry, is this. Range is that. Number 10, you're asking for the vertex. You do the same thing. X equals negative b over 2a. Negative b over 2a, who's your b?
-12.
Over 2 times 3, so it's 12 over 6, which is a 2, right? Now remember, this is the x value to your vertex, but how do you find the y? Plug this into every x in there. So I have 3, 2 squared minus 12 times 2 plus 1. 3 times 4 minus 24 plus 1, or you could just plug it straight into your calculator. Negative 12 plus 1, negative 11. I worked it out, but you could just plug that straight into your calculator. Number 12 is exactly the same question on your test. So, number 12, we kind of covered it, kind of didn't. But when you look at problems like this, you're always trying to solve for x, and on the road to solve for x, we need to keep the largest exponent positive. So my largest exponent is x cubed. So if this needs to stay positive, then I need to move this little guy this way. So if I move it that way, then I must what? Subtract x squared, subtract x squared. So I have 0 is greater than or equal to x cubed minus x squared. I am going to take that new equation and figure out if I could factor anything out. And the answer is, I could factor out
Square.
x squared. If I factor out an x squared, what's left over? X minus 1. I set each of these equal to 0. And I get x is 0 here, and x is a positive 1. So before I continue, is everybody okay with that? So I move the x squared over to keep the x cubed positive, factor out an x squared, got two things, set them equal to 0. Are we fine there? Number line, 0, and a 1. So if my answer is true between here and here, it is true between a negative infinity and 0, or between a 0 and a 1, or between a 1 and a positive infinity. And this is where we had to pick test points. So I need to pick a number between negative infinity and 0. So I can pick a negative 1. A number between 0 and 1, half. A number between 1 and infinity, 2. These are the numbers that I'm going to use to test. And when you test into the original. Now, if I'm testing that negative 1, I have negative 1 squared should be greater than or equal to a negative 1 cubed. What's a negative 1 squared? 1. What's a negative 1 cubed? Negative 1. Is 1 greater than or equal to a negative 1? Yes. So then this is good. It works. Now I'm going to try the half. Half squared is greater than or equal to half to the third. Half squared means 1/4, because 1 squared over 2 squared should be greater than 1 cubed, which is 1. And what's 2 cubed?
9.
8. Is 1/4 bigger or equal to a 1/8? That is true, so then this works also. So we're good. Then I'm going to try a 2 squared should be greater than or equal to a 2 cubed. What's 2 squared?
4.
And what's 2 cubed? 8. Is 4 greater than or equal to 8? No. So this does not work. So my answer is going to be a negative infinity to a 1. But the question here is it going to include the 1 or not? So now I have to check the 1. What is 1 squared greater than or equal to 1 cubed? 1 squared is? 1 cubed is. But is it greater than or equal?
Yes.
So it includes it. This is going to be the same answer. Like nothing changes on this problem. So you could go to number 12 on your test. It's that one. Boom. Oh my God, we're almost done, I think. 2 more. Number 4, you were supposed to change parallel to perpendicular. Why do they even give us this? This is going to help us find the what? The slope, right? So 7y equals 2x plus 21. Divide by 7. I have y is 2/7 plus 3. Anyways, sorry. If the slope is 2/7, but it says perpendicular, what am I supposed to do? The opposite what? Reciprocal. So the slope I'm going to use is going to be a -7/2. That's the slope you're going to use because it's perpendicular. So you take this opposite reciprocal. So this is the formula that you have to use. This is my x1, y1. So I have to plug in y1, x1, and your m. So y minus a -1 equals -7/2 x minus a -7. You have to remember, of course. That should be your best friend right there. So
Y plus 1 equals
those becomes pluses. So I have y plus 1. We distribute. So it becomes -7/2x. And what's a -7/2 times the 7? -49/2. Because you just multiplied the 7 times 7. That's it. So one more thing. That 1 has to go over. So if it's a +1, I have to.
subtract.
So I'm subtracting 1 here, but I'm going to subtract 2/2 over here. Because I'm changing it into a fraction because I need a fraction, right? So y equals -7/2x minus 51/2. I know. Just by doing this and finding your slope, or like the perpendicular one, should help you eliminate an answer too. All right, the last one, number 1. What is the center if anybody did it? -3/4. If you did not get -3/4 because you haven't done it, I need you to try it on your own. And this is the formula you should have used to find the center. The midpoint formula. Now, how do you find the radius knowing that this is your center? I need to use the distance formula, which is the square root of y sub 2 minus y sub 1 squared plus x sub 2 minus y sub 1. I mean, whatever, you know what I mean. Squared. Now, which 2 points am I going to use? One of the endpoints and the center. Or, just so you know, you could have used these 2 endpoints, but then what do you have to do with it? Divide by 2. So there's 2 ways you could have done this. Because remember, they're telling you, hey, these are the endpoints. So together they make a diameter, but you only want the radius. So this is why. If you use these 2, you still have to divide by 2. Or you could just use that one and that one. So I'm going to use this. This is going to be my x1, y1. This is going to be my x2, y2. Square root 6 minus 4 squared plus -5 minus a -3 squared. 2 squared. That becomes a plus. -2 squared. 4. Did I mess up? No. 4 plus 4. What's 4 plus 4? Square root of 8. That is your radius. Now, this, you could change it to this if you wanted to. It's going to be okay. I would keep it like this because when you do the formula for the circle, in case you forgot, this is it. Your center, x minus x plus 3 squared, y minus 4 squared, that comes from your center, and your radius, if I square this, what do I get? Just an 8. Because r is the square root of 8, if I square this, the square root and the square cancels, and the answer is r squared equals to 8.
So
So this is our story.
Yeah.
That
That has to be in R squared. So that is your review. Your exam is on Wednesday. I'm going to show you my work for 24 right now, for those of you who need to see it. Or if there's another problem that you still haven't done and you still want to work it out, you stay behind. I have your test grades. So if you're ready to see the test grades, I'm going to be over here. You can see them.
You posted them too, right?
I posted them, yes.